Hi, my name is Jenn Iacopucci, and I'm a member of the Circuit Breaker team, and I'm going to present to you how to claim supplemental services and when to claim supplemental services. First, I'm going to go over different situations when you may have extra services that you're paying for a student and how and to claim those and when to claim specifically supplemental services. We have created a guideline chart on showing where students are placed and when they're receiving services, how to claim them. But first, I want to guide you through where to find that. If you go to our main page for the Circuit Breaker program and you scroll down to Next Generation Claim System, you will find any information related to the claiming process. This is updated all the time. So what I'm showing you now on this training may change because, like I said, we're updating the information that's on here. But you will find this particular item under claiming guideline documents. And the guidelines for claiming additional services is what you want to click on and what I'm going to review with you today. So we know there are, let's see, one, two, three, six, seven different situations, four or five different situations that students' programs are being placed in. And depending on how they're being placed is it depends on how you're going to claim those services. So I'm going to go over each of these situations. If the student's receiving extra services, who you're paying, and how it should be claimed. So the first one is students that are placed at an approved private program, and you're paying an approved private day rate for their tuition. If you're paying for additional services for that student at that same program, this gray area right here, you would need to seek authorization for that extra service through the IPA process. We have another training that goes in specifically on how to do that and how to claim that. So I just want to make you aware, if you're paying that private school for the tuition, you're paying the same private school for extra services, you'd claim that as an IPA. However, if you have a student placed at a approved private school and you're paying an approved private program rate, but you're also providing additional services to the student and you're paying another agency, a collaborative, or sending your own staff, you'd claim those as in-district supplemental. If you have a student that's placed at an individual student program or what we used to call an unapproved program, and you're seeking OSD authorization for that program, if that same program is providing extra services to that student, you'd combine those costs with the tuition when you seek approval for that program. And you'd claim all the time together based on what your approval is, the tuition and the extra services that you're paying the program. However, if you have a student attending an ISP or an unapproved program, similar to the approved programs, if you're paying another agency, a collaborative, or sending your district staff to provide these services, you would claim those services as in-district supplemental. The next instance are students that are attending collaboratives or another LE, you're paying another district for tuition. If you have an instance where you have a student that's attending a collaborative or another LEA, and that same collaborative or LEA are providing additional services that you're paying for on top of the tuition, you would add all those services together, and that would be the total cost that you would claim for that student that's placed at the collaborative or the LEA. You do two different placements for the summer and the school year because it's a public program, but you would still combine the cost of everything that you're paying to that program. If you have a student placed at a collaborative or an LEA and you're paying another agency, a different collaborative, or you're sending your district staff to provide services to this student, you would then claim that as in-district supplemental. If you have a student that's attending an in-district program and you have another agency, a collaborative, or even another district providing services to that student, because that student's in district, everything would be claimed in district for that student based on how the services are outlined in the IEP. All of these examples that I've gone through, the approved program, the ISP, the collaborative, and in district, we have separate trainings on how to claim these different things. I'm going to focus now on in-district supplemental since I've spelled out when you would claim an in-district supplemental. The two things I want to make you aware of when claiming in-district supplemental is you're claiming these services based on what is outlined in the student's IEP for the service because it's following the in-district claiming cycle, if you would, in the system. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. You're not claiming based on the amount of hourly rate you're paying, the total cost you paid, the number of hours you paid. You're claiming based on how that service is outlined in the student's IEP. And it's claimed based on the providers that are available in an in-district claim and the state rates for those providers. You're not being reimbursed based on what you paid, but you are being reimbursed based on how those services are outlined in the student's IEP. So I'm going to jump into our fictional district Pawnee, and this may not be your first time seeing it if you've watched our other modules. I'm going to go to add students, and I'm going to look for the student Albus Dumbledore. Albus is placed at Theme Collaborative. You see that tuition placement here from January 15th to June 18th. While Albus was at SEAM, he was also provided ABA home services 5 hours a week, and they were provided by AB Home Program. Just AB Services Home Program, we'll call it, because I'm just making that up. And those services are outlined in the student's C grid. He has ABA 5 hours at home a week. So to add that placement, I'm going to click supplemental because he's attending a collaborative and I'm paying another agency, not the collaborative. So these now are supplemental placements. You'll see over to the right, we have all of our placement types here. To the right, we explain them. Added this year are hyperlinks to the training. So if you get this far and you're not sure what to do, you could click this and it'd be brought to me in this training. And it would walk you through the rest of this training. So, well, the entire training, but you could pick up here if you wanted to. So I'm going to click supplemental and then I'm going to click next. And you'll see here, if you've done an in-district placement, it's following the same, kind of steps as we do with an in-district placement. Since this student was placed on January 15th, his IEP start date was 12/31/2025, and the end date was 12/30/2026. And we'll say it was signed on 1/10/2026. As I said, his services were listed in the C grid. So down here where it says service delivery, A, B, C, or additional info, I'm going to click C. The placement type is school year. The placement start date, I kind of went quick over this, but I wrote it down. It's January 15th, 2026. That's when he started SEAM through June 18th. Oops, I think I clicked something there. June 18th, 2026. And the number of days was 90, and the IEP is written on a 5-day cycle. Now I'm going to click next. So now it says, okay, you checked off C grid services. What services do you want to claim from the C grid? As I mentioned, the IEP says ABA at the home. So I'm just going to click this ABA section. As you'll see, all the services are listed here, and we go into more details on this in our in-district trainings. So I clicked ABA, and now I'm going to select next. Now it's asking what the frequency is. The frequency is 5 hours a week. So I'm going to select weekly, 5. And since the services are happening in the home, they're individual. You have the option here to put a comment with supplemental services and you're paying somebody else. I recommend putting the vendor in here. If anything ever came up, if we audit you or we're asking questions, it's always a little bit of time since you've put this information in the system, and I find it's a little helpful for districts to know, why they claimed what they did, especially with supplemental services, because IEPs don't usually outline who that provider is in the IEP. It's back work that you're doing at the district level when you're filing your claim. So it's just a way to track kind of what you did at that moment. So I'm just going to put A, B services program provided home services. Now, if I call you, you'll know where you got the information from. Then I'm going to click next. And you'll see it says the total cost of the placement is $3,358. Now, this may not be what you paid, but this is what you will be reimbursed based on the state rates by what's in the student's IEP. So now I'm just going to go back to placements. Oops, no, I'm not. Sorry. I'm going to click refresh. And now we're back to placements, and we'll see we have his SEAM Collaborative program placement here for $60,000, and we've added the supplemental placement here for $3,358. I want to just take one more step here. If you click on the supplemental placement number, what you open in the beginning is the overall capture of what that placement is. So you'll see the total cost here, the adjusted cost, the 5 days in cycle, and the number of days. It's very general. In order to see this services, and this is the same within district, you're going to first open to the roll up of all the services. But to see the services, you need to select related. Once you do, you'll see here's the ABA, 5 hours per week, individual in the C grid. You'll see the details of the services that you claimed. Now, if I made a mistake here and I needed to make a change, I would open up the placement number next to that service that I need to change. And then I'm now in the placement for just the ABA service, and because under program name it says ABA. And let's just say it was 6 hours per week. I put in 5. Oh, now it's actually 6. I mistyped. I can just change that to 6. It saves it. And if we go back, we're back to the main page. No, wait a minute. We're not back to the main page just yet. Give me a minute. I think I'm going around in circles. Sorry. I'm going to go back to the student, and start over so that you can follow me. So now I'm back to the student, Albus. I'm going to his placements. Here's that supplemental placement. We can already see that it increased because I added an hour per week. This is, you first open up to the roll up. You see the program says supplemental right now. This is the roll up of the services that are on the supplemental placement. And you'll see it increased to $4,030. When I click related, that's when we'll see the details of what's being rolled up. And in this case, it's just ABA services. And it's 6 hours per week, and that's where the 4,030 is coming from. So that's a general walkthrough of how to claim extra services, and if you have supplemental services, how to claim those. I know this can get very confusing when you're looking at an IEP. If you have questions when you're trying to add these placements, please reach out to us. We're available at any time, and we'll have drop-in sessions, and there's emails for us. Just please get in touch with us. And please watch our other training modules, because I know I went over the other instances very quickly, and you'll have to go back and watch those trainings if you have students that are in those situations. Thank you, and enjoy your day.